Welcome to Going 19, Episode 9. Today's the 35th anniversary of the release of the movie Stand By Me. They're re-releasing it today for one day only in theaters, so in honor of that, today's episode will be on Stephen King's The Body from the book Different Seasons. I'm Amber, with me are Ed and Kirsten, so let's start the show.
Body, also known as Stand By Me.
Do you know, first of all, do you know when this was written?
1982.
And when was...
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay. So, because 2263 was written in 2011, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it was published in 82, so it was written, I guess, in 81. So, way before. And that's what I was starting to say last night, like, all these books that we talk about lately are all like 1960-ish.
Oh my god, I know. He's obsessed with that era.
Yeah, he really is.
Well, I mean, that's when he was a kid.
Yeah, but I'm not obsessed with the 90s or the 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, I like the 80s, but I'm not obsessed with them.
You're not?
I'm saying. Am I?
I don't know. I'm kidding.
You're just being snarky. I mean... Yeah, like I keep like expecting like fucking Jake Epping to be hanging out with Ace Merrill or something.
Right. I also keep looking for, I think, this is part of what we were saying too, is looking for clues that aren't quite there yet. It's just too early for Stephen King.
Like I'm
himself.
looking for like 19 in here somewhere, and I'm like, wait, 19 didn't exist yet.
So that was what I was starting to say earlier too, was there was at one point where like they were playing a card game or they were doing something and it was like, and he got 4 and 5 and 3 and there's like all these numbers and I just kept trying to make it make 19 and
I didn't even try that.
I'm like, it's not gonna, what
when
are
they're
you
playing
doing?
the card game?
Yeah,
what is the card game? Well, we'll get to that. I did a lot of highlighting for 150 pages.
same.
So actually, I think a lot going on in this story.
There's a lot of subtext.
Yes.
I mean, I know we're like, even on the last page, like one of the themes that keeps recurring is that whole like, I guess that's part of the whole fall from innocence thing, but like, who are you? Who are we? And what belongs to us? Like that's a big theme that I get from this story.
I think he spends a lot of time talking about how words destroy things.
That too.
And I thought that was really weird for a guy who, made millions putting down words.
But he even says that in the story.
Several times.
Yeah.
The opening paragraph says, words shrink things that seemed limitless when they were in your head to no more than the living size when they're brought out.
I highlighted that too.
That's the first damn sentence. Yeah. And then the bottom of that paragraph.
Me too.
When the secret stays locked within, not for one of a teller, but for one of an understanding ear. So, I feel like he was going through a phase when he wrote this. Like he was, and there's a lot of him in this story.
We have to remember this is in his early days too. Well,
so 1981, he would have been famous, rich, but just kind of getting used to that idea.
Right. Maybe he wasn't quite, because you know how he is about fame and money, so he probably wasn't quite happy with himself. There was even a line later on that confused me where he said he felt disgusted at how good it felt to write a good story or something like that. And I was like, why is that disgusting then?
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I highlighted all that shit. Like, it's...
But that makes sense if he was not quite ready for the fame that he got.
I mean, how can you be? Who is? Okay, and there's that's the end of it. But the author, the character author in the story, is talking about crap, I forgot what I was gonna say. His first book was an instant success. They made that a movie. Then he wrote another book. They made that a movie too. Then he wrote a third. And they made that a movie. And like suddenly I was a millionaire. Like that's, I think, pretty sure that's autobiographical.
Wait, but didn't he also see? Wasn't it him? He saw his friend get hit by a train when he was a kid, or he saw his friend die. Stephen King.
Don't know.
Something traumatic happened to him where he didn't speak for a while. I'm getting my stories mixed up.
I I got nothing on that one. No, not that I. And I was actually thinking about that. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but they're sitting there like he's got the gun pointed at Ace, and he's like, "Fuck you," and I was like, "Fuck you." We're taking credit. No, we're taking credit. I'm like, there's a fucking dead kid laying on the ground between you, and you're arguing over who gets
to claim it.
Right.
Like how?
Right.
Even,
and that's the line I was talking about. Like at the end where he says, where he got so mad because, not because of anything that they did, but because he said he was ours. Yeah. And I'm like, what kind of, I don't
very possessive of the
this poor child who first of all, I'm glad that they mentioned that he at least found the body, because I was like, wait, are you telling me that nobody reported this? Because those parents are probably worried sick about this child.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
That's what I was gonna say too. Like, you're fighting over this kid, and like the parents don't even know that he's dead. I mean, they might be assuming it at that point because he's been missing for a while, and with missing kid cases, it's not a very good likelihood that they're going to be found alive after the first like 48 hours. But
first 48.
Yeah, so they're probably assuming that, but of course they're still going to have hope because they want the kid to come home and be okay. So to me, that was the most messed up part. Like, his parents are out there trying to figure out what happened to him, and they're sitting there arguing over who gets to claim the body or report it as...
I thought it was interesting, and I didn't remember this. There was like 7 kids that hung out in their treehouse. Like, I never remember just the 4 of them. I don't ever remember anybody else except the 4 of them.
I also thought that was interesting. It's like, why even mention that? He said there were 5, maybe 6 steady guys, but then only talk about 4 of them in this story. It's like, who?
I don't know. Maybe the club was. He felt the need to have a bigger club. I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it was.
Especially because they kind of fell apart afterward anyway.
Yeah, that's what got me. How do you go through everything that they went through, and then you just like...
Because
of the trauma, yeah. You don't want to face it. You don't want to...
Trauma can
Yeah,
divide
I guess.
as well
I see what
as
you're saying.
Like... Yeah,
it's
and
like
I don't even
bringing
think
up
that's
the memory of it.
It's not even a conscious thing. I mean, part of that was what they went through, and part of that was, like you said, just getting older. Like, they went from junior high to high school. And, yeah, everybody has different friends once they get into high school. Like, that's just keep some, and some are gold, and some are whatever.
Yeah, so, sorry, but I was right about Stephen King. Apparently, when he was a kid, he saw one of his friends struck and killed by a train, and he said he has no memory of the event, but his family told him after leaving home to play with him that he returned speechlessly and in shock, and he couldn't talk for a while.
I don't remember that. So that's totally where this came from. Cool. Well, he always says, write what you know. Part 2, anybody see that it was Double Money Day?
Yes, I highlighted that too. I'm like, freaking double money.
Where
I guess,
are you at?
Down here, part 2, down here, it was, you got double money on blackjack.
Can't get rid of those double money days.
Yeah, I guess
they
that's...
get triple money.
So when he's saying it's double money, I mean, this doesn't really apply to this episode, I guess, but...
No.
When he says it's double money day, I guess that's a gambling card blackjack thing? I don't...
It's possible. I never thought about that. We'll have to come back to that, yeah.
Stupid multicolored man.
Multicolored man.
I do like a lot of the language, like kid eating monster.
I highlighted that too. I was just reading that. He's very colorful in this book. I like this. I had to remember what bite cards were. Like that's like the only kind of card you could buy. Now we have Skechers cards everywhere because every time we go to Skechers, they send us a pack of cards.
Really?
What?
So I got like.
For what?
It just comes in the box. We get that, and we get cards and a phone stand.
Weird.
What kind? Like playing cards?
Yeah, I've never opened them. I think so.
What kind of deal
So,
is that?
Skechers.
Some kind of lifelong branding.
If you could, start advertising on the show, that'd be great. Since I just gave you the sponsorship. So they basically have a treehouse and they're fucking around, and Vern shows up. He's like, "Hey guys." You got to see the movie because, like, I can just picture it.
I'm picturing it too. Yeah, I have seen it. I do remember the. I don't remember.
So you have seen it. So he sticks his head through the, like, all you can see is like this much of Vern, like, and he's like, "Hey guys."
And I can hear Gordy narrating it when he's.
Gordy is Richard Dreyfuss.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. Yeah.
You will when you hear the voice. The guy from Jaws. Does that help? Close Encounters. I don't know if he's been in anything that you're old enough for. So Vern comes in. Oh, let's talk about Teddy. All these guys have horrible parents, by the way.
Yes.
What is going on in Castle Rock? Like, holy crap.
Right? I was like, is this Derry?
Terry's dad... Teddy. Yeah. That's Teddy from Derry. Terry. His dad burned his ear with an iron? Is that right?
He shoved his head down
onto
on
the
plate.
stove.
Yeah. Like...
And then
And then did the other side.
Did on the other side for some reason.
Right, synchronicity. And now he wears a hearing aid. He's got a mangled ear. Like, what?
And he can't. He's blind. Basically.
I was gonna say and he already had terrible vision.
I highlighted. This becomes a theme I didn't even realize throughout the book. At the bottom where it says Teddy was proud of his old man in spite of what his old man had done to him, and he went with his mom to visit him every week.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could probably speak to that better than I could, but you love your parents no matter who they are, even if they're assholes.
I think you can speak to that just fine.
Well, now I could. It's true.
Like Stockholm syndrome.
What is it?
I don't. I just.
What did you say?
So I agree with.
It's like Stockholm syndrome.
I agree with it, and I don't. I mean, I think if you are allowing that love to control you and your decisions, yes, but you can still love your parent and not be indebted to them. Yeah.
Well, Terry.
But Teddy is probably.
God damn it! Why do I keep doing that? Teddy is definitely indebted to his dad, and his decision making is solely based on his worship of his father, which is the guy that mangled him for life. Like,
but it's also, it makes sense. So I do agree with what you're saying when you say Stockholm, and it makes me think of like domestic violence. Like that's the only person.
Stockholm syndrome doesn't only apply to domestic violence situations, though. Like
kidnapping one.
The whole thing.
When you start to identify with your abuser, yeah.
The whole reason that Stockholm syndrome is named what it is because people got kidnapped and they started basically like your mind just gets twisted from the abuse and the trauma.
So what I mentioned is that becomes a theme in the story. It's something I know we're going to get to that, but I had written down later on in the first story that Gordy writes, where the dad in his story is rude and abusive and horrible, but like he still feels like that's probably a better parent than a parent that just ignores him. And he even makes, I can't remember if it's Gordy or if it's Chris or Teddy that makes that point later on, but the same thing, that Gordy probably would have been happier if his dad had been like Teddy's dad, as opposed to just being completely indifferent and treating him like an invisible person.
If his dad was beating him, he'd have been like, well, that invisible thing wasn't so bad after all.
Well, right. The grass is always greener.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, because I've spent my entire career building, like, doing things associated with kids with special needs and kids who have trauma and kids who have behavioral issues. And I mean, the cardinal rule is that any attention is better than no attention.
Really? Even physical
yeah.
abuse is better than neglect?
What do you mean by the cardinal rule?
That's why kids misbehave. like if their parents are indifferent and they aren't paying attention to them, most kids will act out, because that's when the parents are like, you know, get over here, and they start spanking them or whatever. They're getting some type of attention. Some attention is better than none at all.
Maybe that was my problem.
I was gonna say it makes sense, like on a triage of.
I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
I say it's the cardinal rule because it happens in, obviously, kids who are developmentally delayed are a little bit different because they have cognitive stuff going on. But when you're talking about kids who are in the camp of they're strictly behavioral, meaning like they're neurologically typical. When you're talking about kids who are neurologically typical, they don't have any sort of developmental delays. They're on par with their peers in terms of meeting the developmental milestones, and they still have behavioral issues where they're violent or disrespectful, you know, all those types of things. 9.5 out of 10 times, it's attention seeking. And a lot of times, it's called oppositional defiance disorder, and the way that occurs and develops is
You down with ODD?
parents who are inconsistent in their discipline and they're extreme in their discipline. So basically, one time they might hit their sibling and their parent just kind of looks away because they don't want to deal with it or they don't want to be bothered, but the next time they do it, they get the shit beat out of them. But they don't know because it's an intermittent reinforcement system. They don't know when they're going to get the payoff and when they're not, but the payoff is the attention of the parent. So
Attention to somebody, maybe not the parent.
right, it ends up bleeding into, a lot of times it starts off as the parent or whoever the caretaker is when they're very young, and then when they get to school, it's a total disaster because it carries over.
Nathan, my school told me that basically I was bored and that's why I got in trouble. Like,
Yeah,
my
that
guidance
happens
counselor
too.
said I was too smart and not challenged, and also I was looking for things to do. So that's why I got in trouble.
Entertain yourself, yeah.
But I was also, now that you've said that,
But how do you entertain
I
yourself?
don't know how to word this because this is. I didn't get paid a lot of attention to through my teenage years, so there was probably some of that going on as well.
For sure. And like, how do you entertain yourself in a classroom?
You go in on that.
You get either the attention of the teacher, whether it's good or bad, or you get the attention of your peers. Like a lot of times when you get to that age, you're doing things for your peers to laugh at you. You want to be the class clown. You want people to like you. So you're acting out to get their attention. But either way, it's attention is attention.
It makes me wonder if, now this is getting really deep, but if that's Stephen King's, if that's
Situation.
a thought that he's had as well, is, you know,
Do you know what the relationship was like between like him and his
dad
parents?
left when he was a baby.
What about his mom though?
I think,
Raised them.
yeah, he had a good relationship with his mom, but I mean
Poor,
specifically,
but not needing for anything.
my point was,
Didn't have anything, but didn't need anything.
my point was, is this a thought that maybe he had, especially as a child, maybe not so much as an adult, but like maybe his dad would have been better off even if he was abusive than not having one at all.
Well, I definitely think Gordy's situation sort of reflects what you're saying about his situation.
Absolutely.
I mean, Gordy's dad was physically there, but mentally he was just kind of like, oh, whatever, you know.
They were so worried about Denny, they forgot to care about the kid that was still alive.
Yeah.
Right. I guess we're gonna get to that soon. But like where he said that one miracle baby was enough for them.
Yeah.
One too many, it sounds like. They were.
No, like they didn't need
Denny,
a second one. Yeah, they never really cared about Gordy.
Yeah, I felt really bad for him in this story because his parents like really didn't seem to care. Like, even at one point, he, like, swears and says something totally, like,
Oh, at the dinner table,
off the
yeah.
wall.
Just
And his
to
mom's
see.
like, what, honey?
Yeah, pass the
And
butter.
he's like, oh, nothing. And then they just go back to talking about his brother again.
That was
I'm
at
like,
the end.
Yeah,
She's staring
yeah,
out
it
the
was at
window.
the end, and it was so messed up. Like, and that's what I'm talking about. He's doing something totally outrageous and naughty. Like, if his parents would have heard him, he would have been in trouble. But he's trying anything to get their attention.
Yeah.
Like, somebody pay attention to me. Like,
It
I
makes
know
sense.
that he died, but I'm still here. Like,
Well,
hello.
it was like that before he died.
Yeah.
Nobody paid attention to
And it
him.
just exacerbated because they were
Yeah.
because trauma and they
He
were
was there.
devastated.
Danny was the golden child,
Right.
the sports hero who was going to be rich and famous.
It really makes me wonder, because I think of that, and I can't imagine that happening. Like, when I think about sitting down at dinner and the conversations that we had, like, I felt like everyone had an equal voice. But I was also the oldest and probably one of the loudest. So I know that I always had a voice.
Right.
When I think about, like, my sister Dana, who is very much the middle lost child, and I don't know. I don't care. She knows.
Okay.
We've talked about this before.
Just saying. Not sure you want to put it out there.
No, just meaning I wonder if that's how she felt too. Like, did she feel like invisible? Did she feel like she couldn't speak up or like nobody would hear her?
That seemed a little borderline, so I wasn't sure.
The point that I was making was trying to relate and say, I wonder how many children
Feel that
feel
way.
this way. Yeah, that we may not know about.
Probably a lot.
It is sad. Because I never felt ignored. Out of all the things that happened, I always knew somebody was listening to me.
Yeah, I mean, especially these kids that have, like, or these parents that have 6 kids at once, somebody's going to feel ignored.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't.
Yeah, that's just the way it is. You can't pay attention to all of them. But again, that goes back to my point, like, why you act out, because who's going to get the attention? Well, the squeaky wheel is going to get the attention. Whoever, and that's why it ends up transferring over into school, because now you're in a classroom with 30 kids nowadays. Who's going to get the attention? The kid who's throwing stuff and,
Right.
you know, screaming and won't sit
Causing
down and
trouble.
won't, yeah. So,
I wonder if Stephen King was ignored. I feel like he's Gordy.
well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking, because you guys know a lot more
Probably.
about him as a person.
He probably, I mean, his mom, if his mom was the only working parent.
He was the younger one, right? Dave was older.
Oh, he had a brother.
Yeah.
I think Dave was older.
I think
he
so.
was the younger one.
So then it's even more relevant because Gordy's the youngest too.
That's true. I forgot about that.
And by far,
Right.
like 10 years younger.
Right, which is a lot for siblings.
Is that how
Yeah, they're
far
almost-
they were?
That's what he says. Like,
Uh-huh.
Denny didn't. Oh, he died. He was just some other guy. It wasn't like.
That
Wait,
was
Stephen
cold.
King and his brother were.
Oh, I don't know about no.
No,
I
they
think they
weren't.
were only
Okay.
2 or
Yeah, they were only a
something.
couple of years.
Yeah.
That's what. That's what I was asking. You guys know like all about his life and
Well,
like
you
the
have to meet
autobiographical
Stu.
stuff.
You do have to meet Stu,
Huh?
the guy that does the tour.
The Stephen King tour, he told us all about his life.
Got it.
He said Dennis had been killed in a Jeep accident, and he would have been 22 later that week. I'd already picked out a birthday card somewhere. Oh, here it is. I cried when I heard. I cried at the funeral, and I couldn't believe he was gone. But it was. I'm trying to find the part where he's like, "Yeah, but I really didn't care."
It's not yet. It's later, a little bit later when he's talking about it. But at the top of 299, I thought that was interesting too, where he says, "After that summer, it took me a long time after that summer to realize that most of the tears I cried were for my mom and dad.
Yeah.
Fat lot of good it did them or me." I'm like,
Well, above that, he says, we ate at the same table for a lot of years. Sometimes he was my friend, sometimes my tormentor. Mostly, he was just a guy. Like,
but there's
it's
a
a
quote,
very cold, distant rhythm.
there's a quote later on where he says, "I feel the same way as I felt about when some celebrity died."
Yeah.
And I was like, damn. I mean, I get that you're not the same age, but I...
Well,
And it's not like his brother was mean to him or anything.
not at all.
Right.
He was just a brother.
He was probably...
Yeah.
Brother stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know,
He was nicer
movies on his
than
head.
a lot of older brothers would
That's
be.
what I was gonna say. I felt like he was nicer than
Well, I think the 10 years helped. That
a
made
typical
him-
brother.
made
Yeah,
him-
because you have maturity there.
And you can't
protective.
beat up a little kid, too.
Like you didn't really grow up with a
You
brother
can.
that's 10 years older than you.
Yeah.
Trust me, you can. I've seen it. I've had to report
Oh.
on stuff like that.
Okay, so then Vern finally gets him to shut up and listen to him.
You guys want to go see a dead body?
We all heard about it on the radio, of course.
I just can't imagine. I mean, maybe that's a guy, a boy thing, but like, if one of my friends came up and said that to me, I would be like, we gotta get an adult. Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
I also
After I went to see it, yes.
Uh-huh.
no.
I would need
I wouldn't
like,
want to go.
like they have at the end there where they feel ownership. I would want to do that.
That's what I'm saying.
I would want to see it on my own before the world got to see it.
Well, that's what I think Amber and I are saying. It must be a boy thing because, like, we.
I
don't know
also
that we feel
am
that
trying to
way.
think of what I thought
Maybe
like when I was.
I can't tell you that.
I don't remember how I thought when I was 12 years old. I can't remember what I thought about. Maybe I mean
I would
I'm
have been
thinking-
freaked out.
I'm thinking of me now after seeing all the crime shows and stuff that I've seen and like stuff like that. But
You're like, don't touch his fingers.
right, maybe as a 12-year-old I
Chain
would
of
have
evidence.
been more intrigued.
That's a good point too. I thought about that when they actually got there and the whole exchange over the body happened. I was like, because they put it back and I'm like, your fingerprints are gonna be there, like all this stuff. Like,
But
what
he
are
thinks
you
to
guys
get the
doing?
shell casings.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, this
Yeah,
one
that was
last.
pretty smart.
I don't think they had fingerprints in the 60s.
They had fingerprints in this.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, they did.
Like,
His
not the
fingerprints
scopes.
go back pretty far.
Turn. Leopold.
Oh,
and-
you're right. You're right.
Hey Google, what year was the Leopold and Loeb trial?
1924.
Okay.
On the website pbs.org.
Hey Google, shut up.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I remember, like, I forget how that.
Hey Google, stop. Things are taking over. I'm gonna edit that. All right, we're good.
I remember looking it up. I don't remember why I did, but I remember being shocked that it was that long ago because I thought the same thing. I was like,
Yeah.
really? Like, I knew,
We
I
even
figured
had-
it was probably around in the 1960s, but I didn't think it would go back as far as
Yeah,
like the
Were
1920s.
they able to like lift fingerprints off of bodies and stuff though? Then
With ballistics on shell casings. I don't know if that was a 60s
well,
thing.
that's true too. Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
But here, like, I mean, I read this almost in real time. So here's what I say. When I was 12, my mom died. So I was only 12 for like a week. So more or less 13. I was fascinated, and I guess you say I still am by death and all that it means because it consumed and took over my life. So, like, read it. I didn't go see a dead body at 12. Well, I did actually, not on purpose.
Technically.
Technically, no, it wasn't no technically. I walked
There,
in.
yeah.
My brother found her. He came and got because he was 9. He didn't even know what was going
Oh,
on.
I thought you were talking about the funeral.
No, I'm talking about. I had to call my dad and say, I think your wife's dead.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So reading this was
You read this after that?
yes, probably
The first time.
'Right.
84. I found her books and then consumed everything. So that would have been 83. This came out in 82, I think. So I probably read it by 84. 'Cause I caught up real quick to where he was. So I mean, for me, that's what I said. I was a 12, 13-year-old kid reading.
You felt like you could
Reading
relate.
this, I completely related. Then they were going to see a dead body, and I knew what that was like, and all the emotional,
Turmoil.
yeah, maybe not turmoil. Well, for me, there was turmoil. I don't know if there's turmoil for them other than the fact that this life was ended.
I think it's made pretty clear that this was a life-changing event for them.
Oh, yeah.
Some would say a watershed moment.
Ha ha ha.
I think he might even say that at some point in here, or is that the other book?
I don't remember seeing that in here.
Maybe that's the other book. He's like another warrior kid.
Sorry.
Okay, so yeah, Gordy's like, yeah, I can camp out, and they won't even know the fucking difference.
Yeah, he's
And
like
it's true.
they won't even realize I'm gone.
Ray Brower. Now, how did this kid that was going blueberry picking end up 30 miles down the road?
Well,
I have been trying
in
to figure
those
that out the
days,
whole story.
It says,
Like, what happened?
page 300, right before section 4. In those days, it was still possible to walk into the woods and lose your direction there and die there.
You think that's what happened?
That's what they. I think that's what they speculate is
I
that he
think
got
a local
lost.
would be pretty good at the woods, though.
He
Yeah.
may have gotten lost, but that's not how he died. Like,
Well, no, and
then they start talking about like he must have gotten hit by the train and like his body flew or whatever. I'm like, you didn't see the train coming? Like, I get getting lost, but what happened with the train? Like, I don't.
And it was a freight. It's
Well, he
only a
was
freight train that
walking-
rides them. They don't go fast.
And there's no way you don't hear them.
I think what he was saying though is that he like, cause remember they're walking on the train tracks, cause like, or that's what they're following. So I think what he's saying is that when he tried to get off of it, yeah, I don't know why he would have waited so long. Maybe he
Right.
was sleeping or something. Like if it was
On the
at
train tracks.
I don't know, but
The whole thing is just weird. to
it
me.
definitely. I understand
But maybe it's completely. I mean,
the part where he fell. Like I get. It seemed like something was broken there.
yeah, knocked him out of his. Yeah, it's actually pretty horrific at the end when he describes maybe the train didn't kill him and what
Yeah.
the kid probably went through.
Right? I'm like, stop thinking about what could have happened.
But yeah, you're not helping.
But
them
it
at all.
is very mysterious. Like, I get why he's trying to figure it out in his head because I was doing the same thing. Like, how exactly did this happen? I don't understand.
And yeah, all these kids have asshole older brothers. Like.
Their language is appalling. Like, these kids are young. And it's like, F this, F that. Blah, blah, blah.
I thought the same, and then I went back and watched a video that I recorded when I was in middle school, and I was cursing too.
Yeah.
Like when parents weren't around, that was the thing to
By
do.
13, I was pretty f-bombing the shit out of
Yeah.
them.
Well, I did curse at that age, but not the way that they do.
The way that what I thought was funny is it's so much of this freaking. I highlighted all of them.
He hated Billy like the Arabs hate the Jews and probably would have cheerfully voted the death penalty on his brother for shoplifting if the opportunity ever presented itself.
Yeah, they all just like hate.
Well, they hate with good reason. It's not like for no reason. Every one of them got their like heads beat in over that, like the next day.
Yeah, but even before that, there's a lot of hostility in
Well,
these
I'm sure it's not the
families.
first time they got their heads beat in. I guess is what my point.
Hmm.
They were doing a lot of like what we saw, the back and forth between Richie and Bevy in 11/22/23, where that they do the like rhyming thing.
63.
Yeah, sorry, 60. No, 11/22/63.
You said 20.
Oh,
22, 22.
whatever. Those numbers book.
Yeah, I hate saying the title of that book every time.
I know.
It's too long. Like I can't say the stand. I have to go 11, 22, and it's like 8 syllables.
Here we go. Oh yeah, like odd as a cod.
Feels like Jake at a time saying dumb shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, Marie don't like to go down the back Harlow Road. Why is it the back Harlow Road? Weird name. She doesn't go past the cemetery anyway. She's afraid he goes. Why didn't they go past the cemetery? That would have been a cool scene. Especially when the thing was screaming in the middle of the night if they were camped out by a cemetery.
That definitely easily could have been a mountain lion.
It could have been so many things, and we'll never know what it was, and that's probably the best part of that. You don't know what it is.
I've seen enough of Naked and Afraid to know it was a mountain lion.
I'm sorry to hear that. Do mountain lions scream like girls?
I mean, yeah, some animals, or it could have even been a fox. Like, fox makes screams like that too when they're mating.
So,
Mountain
they go
lions.
off on their...
That's what we were talking about, yeah.
Yeah, the scream. I was talking about... they're talking about where the kid is, and off the back Harlow Road, and... who's Charlie? Charlie Hogan. Oh, this is when they're talking. This is when Vern's
Charlie and
digging
Billy
for pennies
yeah.
under the porch.
Who knows pennies?
I think it's funny that they use that against him later on. Like,
you were fucking under the porch, weren't you?
no, other way around. They were like, you gave up your dibs. You had it and you gave it up. So that's your fault.
That's part I was talking about. Yeah, we heard you give up your dibs. Like dibs are that binding. Like oh,
Hey,
they got dibs.
that
There's
age.
nothing we can do. They
and
got
again,
dibs.
it's dibs on reporting this child's body. Like,
Yeah, it's messed up.
I get it. They're children. Like, I'm not, but it's just.
Dibs are important, and being bigger is more important.
That's because of just the sheer strength that they have over them to beat them the way that they did. I know. When I was reading it,
Yeah.
I thought of that. I was like, hey, they had that.
Everybody.
Wild boost from a car from Lewiston parking lot. Go joyriding out in the country with 2 or 3 bottles of Wild Irish Rose.
You can buy it at
2
like,
or 3
bottom dollar.
bottles.
Like, you can buy them at the grocery
Well,
store.
this is what I was telling Michelle when.
Dude, I would be messed up.
When we bought this, I was like, this is wino wine. This is like the guy on the corner bumming 25 cents. He's trying to get enough for a bottle of Richard's Wild Irish Rose.
Yeah, that's
They weren't drinking the good shit.
Like
She told
2
me
to 3 bottles for a few teenagers, like they're gonna be like, woo!
Not those teenagers.
I don't know.
So, yeah, Vern's digging for pennies and he hears them. What are Purple Jesuses? I guess that's something to do with Wild Irish Rose. He says they're drinking Purple Jesuses a couple times.
Yeah.
And I started highlighting this because I started realizing son of a whore. I don't know anyone that's ever said that. You're a son of a
Stephen
whore.
King.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good
It's
point.
in almost every Stephen
It's
King
son
story.
of a bitch, not
Right.
son of a whore.
Son of a bitch.
But he
Son of a
says
whore.
that a lot. Stephen
Yeah,
King.
it's in a lot of his books, but I don't think outside of his books I've ever.
Heard it.
Yeah, like yup. Well, now I've heard that outside his
Ayup.
books. Yup.
Oh. I didn't put this together before. There's a part later on where he says something about, do you dig it? And I was like, what does that mean? Because it made me think of The Stand. Like, baby, can you dig your man? But right here, it says, Charlie, we ain't gonna tell nobody. Nobody, never. You dig me? I dig you, Charlie said. Jesus Christ, I wish we never did that fucking dodge. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, they're big pussies. That's a big word in this one too.
Yeah.
Everyone's afraid of being a pussy.
He even says that he can't cry in front of his wife. He's like, because that would be pussy. And
I
I'm
think
like,
he's being a little facetious at that point, but maybe the things we
but
learned
he
in childhood
still
stayed with us. for
drove
longer.
away.
Yeah. Well, I kind of saw that as he just needed to be alone with his memory for a little bit.
I get that. I just hope he can cry in front of his wife.
Right? Hope he
Some
cried when he had
people
one of his
can't.
3 kids.
Some guys are weird. Like, they just.
Yeah, and then who says Teddy? Oh no, Gordy says you're really lucky. They would have killed you, like if they'd have known he was under the porch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is wrong with the people
I'm like,
in
do
this?
these kids hang out with Henry Bowers?
I probably. Well, Ace Merrill is the. Is this your first Castle Rock?
Yeah.
He's the notorious worst guy in the world in every Castle Rock book. Like,
Okay.
we'll get to a point where we read Needful Things because that's one of the top 5ers. And like she was saying, like she didn't like this one. She was like 11/22/63. There's just so much more happening, or something you said. I'm like, well, yeah, but that's one of his best books ever, so it's not really fair.
Right, that's 30 years later.
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, he had a lot more practice than at that point.
And he's got a lot more universe to build on.
A lot more 19.
I don't know. I guess I'm not like a huge fan of coming of age stories in general, and going from 11/22 to this, it was a little bit of a whiplash for me, and I was just like, I'm not really that impressed.
Did you like Shawshank?
I did like, and that's another thing. After I read this and then I read Shawshank, obviously he wrote them around the same time because they're in the same book. And I was like, see, I liked that one better than this one. Like, I don't know, maybe because to me this whole story was just so messed up. Like,
That's what I was
the
gonna
whole
say.
plot
The
was
story,
just so...
I don't think this story is meant for you. This story is clearly for him, working stuff out with himself. So if you can relate to it, you might identify a lot more with it. I kind of agree with you in the sense of, like, especially going from 11/22/63 right into this, I was like, wow, this is... Yay! But it is still classic Stephen King. There are still, like I said, the hidden tropes, and there's, like, lots of symbolism, and, you know, there's still somewhat horror, just because, like, the suspense, and, you know, not, you know, it's just... I like it.
I mean, I related to it.
Just
Right.
the
It goes
whole...
without saying for me. Like,
I think it was just hard for me because I'm picturing a group of children that
Good so
are... Huh?
far. You're good so far.
I'm picturing a group of small children cussing at each other, breaking the law, going after a dead kid's body, and then getting the shit beat out of them by older kids. Like, that's...
That's what happens.
Yeah, like, it's... like,
I got
that's
no
what I'm
problem
saying.
relating
Like,
to that.
that's...
That happens.
I know, but I just, like...
What do you said? I'm picturing this. That's literally the plot.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I don't
start
You're
to...
having a
fin-
hard time picturing it? Is that what you're
No, I'm not having a hard time picturing it. I'm saying, like, the plot in my head as I'm playing through it, that's basically the whole plot, right? Like, start to finish. Obviously, it's more in depth than that, but, like,
That's
start
what
to finish,
happens.
that's essentially the plot. And for me, I'm just like, this is a lot. Like, that's not it's not a story that, like, I can really get into and be like, oh, this is cool. Like, for me, it's more like, this is fucked up.
It's Stephen King.
Yeah, I mean, it's...
Never forget that.
Yeah.
I don't really...
I don't think you've
I don't
seen...
know. I don't
I
really
think
know
11/22/63 is a little bit too happy so far. Nothing sad has really happened.
I don't agree with that at all.
Like, you don't know Stephen King
I mean, Harry's entire family got murdered, so, like, I feel like that's
Yeah, but that's
way less than happy.
That's a then. That nothing's happened to the character,
yet. Right.
and that can be erased at any time.
Right.
Yeah, but it's not happy-go-lucky by any stretch of the
It's not as
imagination.
bad as many of his other stories.
We
It's
should,
Well,
not.
that's the
we should
thing,
read
I don't-
The Mist.
I don't have... Like, to be fair, you guys have to remember, like, I don't
know,
have
I
a
know.
whole lot of comparison here. But, I don't know, for me, like, Shawshank I thought was cool, because there's stuff going on. Like, in this... I don't know how to explain it. Like, there's stuff going on in this, but it's not... To me, I don't know.
I'm
Now
gonna
that-
stand. I was about to say I'm gonna stand by what I said earlier. No pun intended. I don't. This is one of the few Stephen King stories, especially because it's a short story. I really don't think he wrote it for anyone else. I think this is him writing what he wanted to write, writing things that he was feeling about this event in his life, and it's not really meant for you to be okay with it or to get it. You know what I mean? It's just it is what it is.
No, I know, and I understand that, but I'm saying I feel like you guys enjoyed the story, whereas,
I did
like...
not enjoy the story.
Oh, okay.
No.
That was the impression that I was getting.
No.
Did you enjoy the story, Ed?
Yeah.
See, and that's what I was talking to him about
But like I said, I
yesterday.
was like 13 or 14 when I read it. My mom had just died.
It was very relevant.
I was their age, and had experience with dead bodies, unfortunately. So like, I completely
It
I
resonated.
I could have been one of them.
And I think, unfortunately, there are probably a lot of children out there who can also relate. I don't think it's that far of a stretch at all.
Yeah.
What do you mean by didn't like it?
I'm with her. I don't really care much about the story. It's almost too real for me. Like, I don't care about these things in a way.
It's hard for me to put into words the way I feel about this story. Like, but I did not enjoy it. Like, I would never go back and read it again. For me, one time through is plenty.
I would agree with that, honestly.
But, like, so far what I've read of 11/22 and what when I read Shawshank, I was like, oh, those I could read again. Those were good. I liked it. I liked the plot. this start to finish, that's why I broke down the plot. Like, start to finish, like, succinct. This is what happens. And to me, that's not a story that I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to read that.
Yeah.
I'm like, this
I
is
agree.
just traumatizing and horrible. Like,
Wait till you read
it's
it.
not enjoyable for me. I don't know.
But that's what I think it is about this story, is the fact that it's so
Raw.
real.
Well, there's no monsters.
Yeah.
There's nothing supernatural.
Yeah, it's
about
all real. Yeah, yeah.
it. And maybe that makes it more awful. I think
Right.
he has
But
a
there's
quote.
nothing supernatural.
It's kind of like,
Not to get too off, but there's nothing supernatural about Shawshank, and I still enjoyed that much more than this.
That is a.
And that had some ugly parts to it too, talking about the stuff that happens in prison. But I just enjoyed the story itself a lot more. That's all.
that's a
This is
fair
true.
point.
Two things never happened again.
I guess it really is just that this subject matter is not something I'm particularly interested in. And it's what I said at the beginning. If somebody came up to me and said, there's a dead body, that is not how my story would go.
No. And maybe that's why Ed enjoyed it so much more than we did, because he resonated with it a lot more.
And I used to do that shit all the time. Hey, Dad, I'm staying at John's tonight. All right. You know.
Well, yeah, we all did that.
Because he used to be like, come home.
No, Grammy would be she would call the parents to check.
She, Grammy.
Yeah.
Like, he would. Be,
There are ways
come
around
home
it.
by 11 or don't come home at all. He used to say that to me. Like, all right, see you in the morning.
That was your role, yeah.
Problem solved. I guess he didn't see it. Then he had to change that because he figured out what I was doing. So then, so they start on the trek, and they come to train tracks going over the Castle River, which is the first time I've heard of the Castle River. I had to like go through that and be like, what the fuck is the Castle River? Because I thought it was the Androscoggin that they were going over.
They
But
do mention the Androscoggin.
They do.
And then it was, we could go around. First of all, that bridge trestle makes me nervous just thinking about its existence.
Yeah.
It's so funny too how on the way back they're like, fuck it, we're crossing it, I don't care.
Nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then
Because
gone.
at that point, like, I would, that I resonated with. Because at that point, I'd be like, I don't even freaking care anymore. I'm disgusting.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
bit
true.
up by mosquitoes. I'm hot. I'm
Tired,
hungry.
hungry.
I'm sleepy. Like,
I'm about to get
fuck
my
it all.
ass-
Like, I don't even care anymore.
Plus,
like,
it
let the
was-
train run over me at that point.
Was it
Then I
dark?
won't get my ass beat.
It was dark at that point, right? So they probably
It was
they
getting
walked all
dark, I
night.
think.
So oh wait, when they were going,
They're going
back
home.
across.
they're going back. It was
I don't think it was dark when they were going
Well, if
home.
they made it home by 5 a.m.,
probably dark.
yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It
They
was
walked
5
all
a.m. I keep thinking it was 5 p.m. and I'm like, well, there's no way it was dark because it was
And I-
like almost summertime. But
I can
you're right. It was 5 a.m. that they get home.
totally picture those train cross beams and how they're spaced, and we've all had those steps that are spaced just wrong enough that you can't walk.
Yes.
You have to like
Hop.
almost,
Hop, jump a little,
yeah, almost go a step at a time.
prance.
Like you almost
Prance,
have to
if
go
you will.
one and then because you can't quite do it, and then so you have to look where you're stepping. Except when they look where they're stepping, they see you
Yep.
know
A
nothing
drop.
under them. Like
That's why he said he kept getting dizzy.
yeah, he had to actually stop, and Vern was doing the same thing. It was one and then one and then one. I'm surprised
Yeah, I can't
Teddy.
believe
Chris got across so fast.
Teddy doesn't surprise me because he's insane. But...
Well, yeah.
he
I mean,
is.
how did he do
definitely-
it without being able to see, though?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was literally just about to say. Like, he can't hear, he can't see.
Well, you can see with the glasses on, right?
Barely.
Yeah, it
It
seemed
seemed
to
like-
me like his vision still was not very good, even with the glasses.
were
Because they
talking-
make a comment like,
when they play baseball, like they said that they were talking about something like you just hoped that it wouldn't go out to left field because he was gonna go for it even though he couldn't see it with his glasses on.
they say.
I have to pee real quick.
Yeah. Okay. We're good. We're back.
I forget where we were.
The train tracks.
Yes. Oh yeah, Teddy couldn't see shit, even with his glasses.
Yeah, I'm not sure how bad it was with his glasses. I thought it was funny though when like Teddy got his ass whooping by the older kids. Like they knocked his glasses off and then stopped hitting him when they realized he couldn't see a damn thing.
Right, and then he's insane, and he's just gonna be like Tasmanian Devil style.
Yeah.
That's how you get around that. Be the craziest one in the room. Dad's very judgy. Of course they are. A thief and two thieves. Because Chris took the milk money.
Yeah, that was an interesting development too.
I thought the whole point of that was going to be he didn't take it.
Exactly.
And he got blamed for it because his family was shit.
But I liked.
But he
I
technically
liked
didn't.
the twist. He did take
What
it.
do you mean he technically did it? He tried to give
He
it
gave
back.
it back.
He still took it.
He took it initially, but then he gave it back, and the
You
teacher...
can't tell that to the police.
Yeah, I gave it back.
Yeah. Here, have it back. Problem solved.
Most people have to go to court and be ordered to give it
Yeah,
back.
I don't know.
That's not how it works. I understand. I don't think he's a horrible person. That's not at all what I'm saying. I think it's great that he tried to give it back.
The guy in the White Sox took the money to throw the World Series. He gave it back, but he still got banned from baseball.
But I really did. It was like, oh, wow. He was like, yeah, I took it. I'm like, oh, God, didn't see that coming.
Gordy's dad is 63 and Gordy's 12, so yeah.
I don't know.
50
I thought...
years old now. Oops.
To me, I thought it was more messed up what the teacher did than what he did.
Well, obviously.
Of course it was. Because she's an adult and she's supposed to know better. Like,
That's my point. Like,
but it doesn't mean he was in the right just because
no,
he gave
he
it
wasn't
back.
in the right, but like, he did try to make
It
amends.
means he
and give it
developed a
back.
conscience and he realized.
Right.
I'm sure it's not the first time him or someone in his family has stolen shit. And as he's getting older, he's like, wait, I don't want to be that person. Like,
And that's my point. Like, he's trying to be better, and he still gets screwed over anyway.
I
So
think
it's like, why?
that's-
I should have just kept the money in that
That's
case.
the
It's
whole
a
point.
statement of, yeah.
That's why it hurts him so bad.
Right.
I know.
He tried to do the right thing and he still got fucked.
I know.
You know, when you do the right thing, you get fucked a lot.
But again, yeah, you don't do the right thing because of the payoff from it. You do it because it's the right thing to do. So
Yeah,
Because of how
but
it
for a
makes you
kid
feel
who's
inside.
growing up in the circumstances
Of course,
he is,
right,
like,
right.
he doesn't have very good role models. So
Right.
going against the grain like that is a lot harder than it is for someone who has been taught morals and
and he's definitely
ethics.
like he's the peacekeeper. He's the level-headed one of the group. Like,
Yeah.
We were talking about that last night.
Oh, that was the author.
John D. McDonald keeps showing up. Apparently, it was someone that Stephen King read a lot because all his characters lately, or I guess not lately, all these books we're reading lately, his characters are big fans of John D. McDonald.
Oh, that's the same page 310. In the case of my mom and dad, one gift from God had been enough. That's what I was talking about.
Right? The Invisible Man. I don't even know that book. This one was about a Negro. Notices him at all. I get it. It makes sense.
Ralph Ellison.
I know that.
Isn't that Insomnia?
Ralph Roberts.
Roberts. Oh, okay.
What's Ralph's name in the stand? Babe? Is it Ralph Ellison? I'm leaving that in.
Maybe?
Please don't.
Uh,
Literally so many tissues.
It might be. Anyway, so then we get to Stud City, which I don't really understand why that's in there.
Yeah, I don't either. I didn't get that.
It's,
Oh, he's an actual author.
Yeah.
Waldo Ellison.
but I thought he was Ralph in the stand. I thought he used, wasn't there an Ellison? Yeah, that's, well, that was my point. John D. McDonald, Ralph Ellison, and there's another one, and I can't remember his name at the moment, that show up in, like, whenever some character's reading something, it's a John D. McDonald book. Or, like, he's showing up all over the place. I'm pretty sure
You're saying he's like an author in real life.
he is an author. Really.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying.
No, I know.
Yes, he's an author in real life.
He's an author in real life. I'm pretty sure Jake Epping picks up a John D. McDonald book at some point in 1960. I think that when he went
I
somewhere.
think you're right.
Yeah, I like how Gordy starts. You can see how he's still a kid because he's already picturing like the dead kid.
Yep, I highlighted that too. I'm like, well, that's classic Stephen King
Imagine
child.
Him
What?
pallid and bloody in the darkness, the side of his head walloped in, a gray-veined cake of blood and brain drying on his shirt. I would imagine his arms coming up, his bloody hands hooking in the claws. He would be croaking. Should have been you.
It's not croaking.
That should have been you, Gordon.
Okay, well.
It should have been you.
I guess that's why I don't read
We all float here. You'll float too.
audiobooks.
You'll float too.
So the Stud City, I don't have a lot to say about that. It's a very sexual story and he even says that for a
Yeah.
kid that doesn't know a damn thing about sex.
Right. And the way he treats women, I like that he mentioned that as well.
The women are, what did it say? Two of them are sluts and one of them's
Airhead or something.
the submissive.
Yeah.
The one that he's having sex with, I don't know if that's his girlfriend or what, but
I don't know.
she just kind of does. She's just
They're
like
friends.
okay. She's just like okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because she's like we're still friends, right? I'm like didn't you just like
So
have,
desperate.
Didn't you just have sex with her? I'm pretty sure. Well,
That's a gut. No,
well,
that. Yeah.
Okay, never mind. I'll just stop that sentence. So.
Obviously, extreme parallels between his brother and
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean that's.
it's his life.
I think that's Chico is just a way of putting what's going on in Gordy in a third person narrative. It was a way to describe Gordy's life without having Gordy have to tell it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say.
And that's what I said I thought it was so interesting that in his story, his dad, because obviously this is himself, so in this story, the dad is in their face and he's rude and he's yelling and they're getting in these exchanges where it's heated and it's emotional and it's tense, but they're talking about it and they're talking in general and they're not ignoring it and ignoring him. And I'm like, I think obviously this is what Gordy would have preferred over.
Well, he says it. It was the first time I had ever really used the place I knew and the things I felt in a piece of fiction. There was a kind of dreadful exhilaration in seeing things that had troubled me for years come out in a new form, a form over which I had imposed control.
I thought he was talking about Denny, though, and like the visions of him in the closet.
Well, it had been years since that childhood idea of Denny being in the closet of his spookily preserved room had occurred to me. I would have honestly believed I had forgotten it, yet there it is in Stud City, only slightly changed but controlled. So, I mean, that's the whole point of that story, is him, I guess, Gordy venting, being able to control what he couldn't control in real life in the story as far as his relationship with his brother and his parents.
Also, at the top of that page, a Gordon LaChance halfway along in the process of losing the shine. I was like, oh, what does that mean? Maybe nothing, because it could be too early, but I thought it was interesting.
The
choice of
Shining
words.
existed?
It did?
Yes, because The Shining was written in 1977.
Okay, so that's not an accident.
No. There are no. There's no such thing as
There's no
coincidence.
such thing as a coincidence. Well, and then, you know what? No. Yeah. Even later on, Chris says you have a way of reading people, Gordy.
And then fucking Chris gives him the gun and Gordy almost shoots his head off.
Yeah, he's like, no, it's not loaded.
It's not like, and then he starts laughing at him.
Yeah.
Like, I'd have been like, holy, like, I'd have been, I've had that happen. And,
Yeah, that would be terrifying.
freaked out a little bit. Here we go again. Although it could have been a 38 or a 357 for all I knew, in spite of all the John D. McDonald's and Ed Baines I read. Ed McBain's. That's the other one, Ed McBain. For some reason makes me think of a serial killer. I don't know why.
Just would be a good serial.
Then they go to, I skipped ahead to the train tracks because I'm not going page for page.
Yeah, it's...
Sick Balls Chopper. Why is the dump only open from 4 to 8 at night?
Yeah, I didn't understand.
I thought that was some strange hours that guy keeps.
I was gonna say, if it's his property, he sets the hours, and...
I guess he doesn't like money.
Or he doesn't like mornings.
Yeah, well, that doesn't
Or
need
both.
money enough to like mornings.
Right.
He's like, you really didn't load it? No, man. It's like, oh, so that's it.
Kablam!
And then, Chris, there was a part where Chris talks about his dad, with the milk money, like, he broke both his arms and something, like, Jesus Christ, like, first of all, I know it was, like, a long time ago, but Why are none of these parents in jail?
Oh, I highlighted. We kind of moved past it, but I highlighted that in the beginning where he talks about the priorities of the cop.
We get past the goddamn Chico story.
Actually, there's only a couple. Yeah. So he says on page 307, 306, where they were talking about how the difference between Chris being truant and Chris being abused. So that like the officer would show up if he found out he was just skipping school. But if
Right.
Birdie found out that Chris was home because his father had beaten the shit out of him, Birdie just went away and didn't say boo to a kookaburra.
There was
It never occurred to me to question this set of priorities until about 20 years later.
there was a culture at the time, like if a guy beat his wife, that was between them. That
Yeah, like
wasn't-
mind your business.
Yeah, like I was. The cops wouldn't step into that, but cut school.
Crazy.
Yeah, you see, you're not getting away with that.
It's insane.
What does he say? There was a time Mr. Chambers put Chris in the hospital for an overnight stay. When his dad heard Chris was suspended, he broke Chris's nose and his right wrist. Came from a bad family, and everyone thought he would turn out that way, including Chris. But yeah, some horrible parents in this story, and I kind of forgot about that. But Chris was the biggest, toughest guy in the gang,
Even tougher than Jamie, whatever that guy's name was.
right? DeCurry.
Yeah.
So they do the confrontation with what's his name, Milo Pressman, which I don't know. The only thing I remember about that was Sick Balls Chopper.
Cujo is mentioned.
Oh yeah, somebody St. Bernard, right?
336. These dogs never attacked Milo Pressman, the dump keeper, because Milo was never without Chopper at his heel. Chopper was, at least until Joe Chambers' dog Cujo went rabid 20 years later, the most feared and least seen dog in Castle Rock.
And he says something to Teddy about his dad was crazy batshit Section 8. Teddy fucking loses it. Like he's really loyal to that guy. I don't know. I guess it's victimology, but it's weird. They stormed the beaches at Normandy. No, he didn't. He's in a fucking nut house.
Real quick, on page 339, I highlighted, this is what I was talking about with that overall theme of the second to last paragraph. He says, we knew exactly who we were and exactly where we were going.
I read that.
It was grand.
I highlighted that.
And it's just like...
Because that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. It's a very overall sense of, like, purpose and a mission and camaraderie, and then this event happens, and then they're like, oh, fuck. Like, it's over. Like...
Well, I don't know if it's over, but...
Not that, but just, like...
Everything
they're shook by that, for sure.
Yeah, everything's where it's supposed to be. Like, everything, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing with the people they're supposed to be doing it with. Like, everything felt right. Cold water from the pump. Priming the pump. Jeez, guys.
Oh, we already... Okay, yeah, we're past that. Alright.
Need to talk about the Goocher from
Yeah.
that because Four Tails was a Goocher, and the second time they get Three Tails and Gordy ends up going, and Gordy's the only one that lives past 1971.
Yeah,
So I'm like, well, maybe that was a Goocher after all. It was a slow Goocher.
But what about him? Is he still gonna die too?
Gordy didn't get the Goocher.
A Goocher is only if you get 4 tails, though.
Right, but then they get 3 tails and they call it.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. That logic doesn't make sense because then it's not a Goocher. And does that mean the second one overturns the first one? How does this like logic?
Clearly. 3 tails, 1 head. I get a couple of hairs and Teddy screams and down he goes.
Yeah.
They still had a Goocher, all 3 of them, as if dumb fate had pointed them a second time. Yeah, but if it's 4, then 3 is not a Goocher. Huh? I'm going with 3 is a Goocher because they all got gooched.
Well, that's what they think, but that doesn't
No,
work.
I mean later in life.
I know.
They don't think that.
Well, now they don't. Gordy does.
Gordy does, yeah. What's a morphodite? Is that like hermaphrodite?
I don't know. I highlighted that too. Also, I wrote this down. Here he goes again with his love of the 60s.
I mean,
On page 342, he starts talking about.
I ran all the way home, do-up, do-up, do. Just to say I'm sorry. I didn't know half of the songs we wrote. They're a little before my time. Come softly to me, Susie, darling. I ran all the way home because I remember the movie. Ted Williams. There's a lot of that's the Denny stuff. All right.
Yeah, we can.
So then we get across the train tracks, and then really nothing happens till the Beaver Dam builds the pool that they decide to go swimming in.
Wait. We're already past where him and Vern almost died?
That was the train tracks. I guess we didn't finish that discussion.
That's like page 357.
Okay.
Which is fine, we can move forward.
Yeah, I mean, I'm stuck in the middle of all this flashback Denny stuff, and I'm kind of like,
Yeah, well then we gotta move forward a lot.
So the train tracks, I like how he realizes it because, what does he say, it's like a sixth sense or something.
Yeah.
He just decides to feel the rail, like.
Yep.
Because, I can imagine he wasn't even halfway, he was just about halfway across. I forget, it was closer to keep going than to go back.
Right.
Well, you don't go back because that's where the train's coming from.
Right.
That seems like it would be a bit. He wasn't even halfway across, but he had to go forward. So, I think I would have been,
No, he said he was in the middle. I had to stop in the middle to look up at the sky for a while. That dizzy feeling, blah, blah, blah.
but then he sees Vern just past the halfway or something, right?
It doesn't say he moved, although I've written several books, blah, blah, blah. I squatted and made a fist around the rail.
Okay. Well, he says Vern was ahead of him, barely halfway across.
Whatever, it doesn't matter. It still sucks.
Yeah, 100 yards across. My point was, I would have probably been paranoid as shit about that train the entire time.
Right.
Because first of all, like trains never come by here, and then a train goes by. You're like, okay. So another one's not going to come by, right? Seems unlikely. So you're what, 300 feet up in the air, this rickety ass bridge walking across. So your worst nightmare at that point would have been a train. So I'd have been really paranoid. I probably would have been feeling that rail every 5 steps. Going, okay, we're good. Okay, we're good. And then it would have progressed to, is that vibrating? I'm not sure. Take a couple more steps. No, I still feel it. Is it vibrating? And then you reach the point where it actually is vibrating. I kind of forgot about the guy at the store. So the adults in this book are as bad as
horrible.
The kids.
Yeah.
Like the Mrs.
Like, really, you're gonna
Simon,
rip off a kid who barely has any money to begin with? Come on, man.
Tried to rip him off twice, right? Tried to put him on a scale and then added it up wrong.
Yeah, and Gordy calls him out on it. He's like, dude, like, once is a mistake, twice you're doing it on purpose. Come on now.
Yeah, is the guy that hard up for money? He's trying to get 12 more cents from a 12-year-old?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Or
ridiculous.
he probably does that to everybody because he can get away with it.
Yeah. But anyway, so the train,
what about the guy at the dump? You got anything?
he's an asshole too. Like you said, the adults in this book are just morally totally corrupt. They're like, it's like no wonder these kids have the mentality they do about going to see a kid's dead body and fighting over who gets to report it. Look at the role models they have. They're awful.
That's probably the most normal part of the book.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just kind of consistent in terms of the
my take, he was an asshole. Chopper had been built up in their heads because he was apparently only just a normal little dog.
Yeah.
He wasn't like a 6 foot
They were like, oh, that's it?
Doberman like they thought it was. Like, yeah, can Chopper even reach my balls?
Like an ankle biter.
And then he's like, I know you. And they're like, you told him to stick Chopper. Like, I don't know. If I was the adult that owned the dump and the kids were trespassing, I'd have so what if I stick my
Who
dog on?
cares? Like, I don't know. For me, I'm like, is it really that big of a deal that there's a couple kids walking through your dump?
It depends on how often it happens, and if shit's coming up missing. Like, there's a lot of extenuating factors there, but in
Right.
it of itself,
I don't know. Like, 4 12-year-olds walking through my dump. Who gives a shit?
Well, Ken, he kind of admits it too. Like, he should have just, what did he say? Gone
Go
the
around.
other way? Yeah.
should have went around, but now he was already in. He hopped the fence basically to cut through because he didn't feel like
Right.
walking around.
Yeah, he was being lazy, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Trying to
they
take a shortcut.
fucking 20 miles in 2 days.
Oh, yeah. I don't blame him, but...